so glad that you're back. And so we wanted to talk to you because people used to call John Lewis the boy from Troy because of Troy, Alabama. And you're there in Alabama, and you've been kind enough and dedicated, committed enough to connect the new national Christian leadership movement of 2,500 churches with the Transformative Justice Coalition for this July 17th John Lewis Day of Action. Reverend Glasgow, why was it so important to you to make sure that the states of Alabama, Louisiana, and Mississippi would be involved in the July 17th work? Dr. Glasgow. We still can't get this to work. Okay, my apologies. Go ahead, Daryl. I don't know what's going on.
So, while we're working on reaching Reverend Glasgow, Coach Q, I wanted to come back to you because one of the things that I call him AJ, y'all call him Adrian. His real name is AJ, y'all. One of the things that AJ said was that really focus on younger voters and trying to get younger voters ready for the future. Well, one of the things that we certainly teach and push on our Gen Zs that are part of the training is that they don't have tomorrow, they got now. Now they need to be running for offices now. They don't need to wait or any of this other jazz. They need to run now. And we've seen people like Cameron Barnes. We've seen people like Edward Ward. We've seen people, that are Gen Z all around this country that are running for office. So part of what I'd like to see happening through this Good Trouble Lives On and the Good Trouble Get Down that's going on in Atlanta, Georgia, is really telling those young folks, informing those young folks, informing those younger voters, the Gen Zs, that they have what it takes right now to run for office. Could you speak a little bit on that and how 5051 became involved in this Good Trouble Lives On celebration?
Absolutely. Hey, listen, with 5051, I consider myself to be one of the.
You can't hear a word you're saying. So I don't know what's
Hey, Barbara,
wrong.
We can hear you. We can hear you, Barbara.
Called 3 times to speak, and there's just silence.
Okay, I can hear you through the phone now, though. Hold on.
Yes, but that's okay. That's all right.
It's okay.
We'll do it next week, okay?
Okay, let's just reschedule. Okay.
Right. I appreciate you.
Okay. God bless.
And you saw that I said
All right.
Yes.
And the wonders of modern radio, we can just hear all the conversations and all that's going on, and it's all live on air.
When you're not in studio.
It's all right. It's all right. That's what we do. You go in the air. You go in the way of the air. If the wind is blowing, you blow that way. But Coach King, we were talking about 5051 and its involvement and young people running for office.
Absolutely. So listen, I consider myself one of the old guys with 5051. It was started by a guy named Zach Simmons. He was talking with a friend of his in a coffee shop about what was going on with our political system right now. And he said he just so happened to be online and saw a thing called 5051 movement. And he says, Georgia needs something like this. And so without any kind of activism experience, he said, we got to do something. And so they created this organization here off of the national organization, and they've now created these sub-chapters in each state that have been out there. And a lot of the people who have coordinated these things are younger people, and a lot of the people that are getting involved are actually older people. So because they understand what's at stake right now with this political system. And so I applaud those Gen Zers, younger people man, what happened in New York last week was amazing, and like you said, we got to get a lot more people, younger people involved in our political system that actually want to help create change. Our civil rights changed because of younger people. It didn't change because of the older people. It changed because that young energy was out there protesting, being at events, doing the things that were necessary to elicit that change that we wanted to see. I keep running for office. I think my bio said that I ran for county commissioner last year. I ran for mayor in 2020. I really just got my boots on the ground for activism, even though my family's been activists, my entire life. But I myself, Ben, I want to see our younger people change the world and take over. And in order for us to do that, we got to keep mentoring and keep pushing them in a direction of good changes. So this is why I keep running for office myself. It's because I have that young energy. I have the energy and the stamina to try and help with that change.
And AJ, I'm sure you wanted to respond to that too, because I know that you've been active on the political front. You've been all over the place. I remember you running all around Savannah, getting people to vote and pushing people out.
Yes, it is definitely something that is it's definitely something that's fun to think about, and even more fun to plan. I would say that getting more people involved into our actual public offices is more of a necessity than we like to realize, because the more that people have, they're leading into career politics and everything like that, there's some old ideologies that do not change. They do not get removed unless someone steps up to the plate to run for the position. A lot of these positions go unopposed. And because of that, that means that the will of the land goes unopposed. So whatever happens is just kind of going with the flow instead of establishing what we want to happen. But everybody always has something to say when they want to complain about the reality, but no one has anything to really say about to be the solution for the reality. So I personally, first off, Coach, I applaud you and I salute you for continuing to make the effort to be in and to run and to go, to let it be known hey, I'm going to always be present in this aspect. I'm going to always be present here. And if it's not me, someone will be there to be present to let it be known that this is what we're going to do. But
absolutely. Hey,
listen. Oh, go ahead. My fault.
Listen, what you just said about younger people, listen, David Hogg got elected to the National Democratic Party, and they pretty quickly got him out of there because he said what you said. A lot of these candidates run unopposed. The primary process is one of the greatest things that we have for our election system, because what it does is it holds our elected officials accountable to the people. If people are running unopposed, they can pretty much do what they want to do. And it's not that time where we think people deserve to be in these seats. We need to be talking about the ideas that young America is bringing up, and kind of keep our politicians on the footing for what's present instead of what's past.
Exactly. And unfortunately, some people do not have the vision for the future. And I am reminded of, if it's all right, I am reminded of a scripture that talks about that, where it says, your young men will see visions, your old men will dream dreams. But the only way that we can know the bridge between the two is if we communicate with one another as to what you're seeing and what you're dreaming about. A lot of people don't, what I've noticed is that in my time of doing work in this field, a lot of older folks don't want to be forgotten. They don't want to feel as if they're being left out of the movement. They still have their own feelings. They still have their own, premonitions of what they want to do. And they feel as if they can, but they don't see an effort behind them, or they don't feel like they can communicate to those coming up behind them to let them know this is what's happening. And so then you look on the other side of the spectrum. A lot of the young folks, they don't really want to go and make some things take place, because they feel as if, well, the way things are, and it can't change. But that's because they haven't seen something change. A lot of people don't realize that the majority of the things that we enjoy in our present reality were not present 15, 20 years ago. So what had to happen? Some type of communication. Someone had to step up and make it be known what it is that they wanted, and they had to get the consensus of the rest of the people to agree with what it is. So I feel like there's a bridge that needs to be built between generations in order for the transition of power to be more effective and the transition of power to be more solid, so that way for the generation after me, they don't have to worry about what it looks like to grow into this or to rise to the occasion. Rather, they just do it. It's almost as if it's
gentlemen, can I offer a different perspective? Because, I believe that history teaches us that no movement is successful without intergenerational leadership. There's no movement that I've seen ever that succeeded, including South Africa, including Cuba, including so many, and including our own civil rights movement of 1960s, that did not include a total intergenerational operation. I mean, it was the Children's Crusade, right, that saved the civil rights movement when it was in one of its most difficult periods. It was so the leadership isn't always transitional, that it goes from one generation to the other. Movements are the most powerful when every generation is involved. I'm reminded, Daryl, that when we were in Selma, we looked up and we had prepared the room for, Gen Z and young millennials, and we looked up and who was occupying the majority of the seats? Gen Alpha. And we just had to look because it was just amazing to see this young, very, very, very young generation saying it's my turn too. So I just think that we have to think about that constantly when we're organizing, that it's all of us together. And it's you need the wisdom of the elders, you need the knowledge and the energy of the youngers, you need the enterprising work of the middle group. I mean, you need every single body in a movement, right, folks?
100%, 100%. And I think that was, to AJ's point, that was why he brought up that scripture, because it said exactly that. We need all the generations
right,
actively participating in this change. I'm a member of I'm a vice president of NAACP, and the organization's been around for 100 and something odd years. And there are a lot of things that we're still doing the same, that we have to step out and look at how we can change to continue to have that organization be relevant in our communities. A lot of our older generations are glued to the organization because they know what they did in the communities to help with change and help with civil rights. But it's hard for younger people to get that message, because oftentimes the older generations are still holding on to the power and don't want to feel like they're obsolete. But we're not making them obsolete. What we're doing is trying to move the organizations forward with the time, and that's what we have to do with our government. That's what we have to do with our schools. That's what we have to do across the board, is that we have to be able to be forward moving with the time instead of trying to go back, take our country back. Take our country back to what,
Well, where it's been, it's not been good for black folks. Go ahead, Daryl.
No, you got that right, Barbara. If you allow the U.S. Supreme Court to keep moving on, Coach Q, everybody will have a complete appreciation for what the NAACP has been through historically and why we still need them today. One of the things that was brought up through both you, Coach Q, as well as AJ, and I wanted you to speak to it, is that, with this Good Trouble Lives On, with the Good Trouble Get Down in Atlanta, Georgia, you have these organizations that are intergenerational that are going to be a part of it. You're going to have the Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda that's going to be joining the 50-51, and you're going to have Black Voters Matter and Indivisible and the Georgia State Conference of the NAACP. What does it mean to you to see these legacy organizations and new organizations that are coming on board to join hands, to stand shoulder to shoulder, to do this Good Trouble Get Down?
I think it's fantastic. I mean, seriously, whenever someone wants to join the fight, bring it. I mean, I don't agree with these things of when we have people saying, well, it's not your turn, you don't know what you're doing. if I'm here to lend that energy, to lend my knowledge, to learn from you, that should be encouraged all the time. What does the Bible say about teaching kids? We have to be able to teach the next generation by